sure. I'm not sure if these guys are seeing me or if they're seeing that screen there, but
We'll figure it out one day.
either way.
Muted.
It is. No, the whole computer. Like we did. Oh, wait. Well,
I'm still recording.
yeah, we're recording for sure, but it's picking it up through that computer for some reason. And I've got it muted.
I'll mute the whole computer.
Drag that over there.
We shouldn't be pulling it from that because we've done this before. Remember when Jeremy? Anyway, guys, for those of you in Uganda, just welcome tonight. Welcome all of you. We're gonna have to figure that out because we haven't had that happen before. Little technical difficulties, but we'll get it. I'm wondering if we're signed in on the same one, because I already had that one called up earlier. Okay. I think I'm gonna pause this for just a moment. And I'm froze there. So. Sorry about the difficulties. We'll figure that out, I hope, before too many weeks. But guys, we're going to edit some stuff out from the technical difficulties, but we're glad you are with us again. And I emailed Brother Ed Hill a copy of next week's reading material. So hopefully from now until next week, you should have a PDF that you can read for next week's class. And then of course I gave you guys. So I want to introduce Brother Tim Randolph, and he is the Director of Missions for the Greater Waco Association. How many churches do you have?
92.
92 churches, so fairly significant size, larger than Bell. And so he, as I shared with y'all before, from the first time he came and taught here, I was taking notes, and I went back to my office, and you'll see after tonight, I had homework, and I started going through all my emails and making sure everything, I tried to conform to what, it doesn't do any good to receive this teaching if you're not going to apply it. So, but it helped me. And so he's come back faithfully every year to teach, and he'll give you a little bit of bio on himself. I do want to take up some prayer requests. Our church planter, Larry Robert, we've been praying for him. He had a double bypass. He went back Friday to the emergency room. He's got fluid building up around his heart. His lungs have fluid, and he has developed pneumonia in his lungs. So Gina told me today, his wife told me today that he is doing a little better, has a doctor's appointment, I think she said tomorrow. So he's doing better, but he's not doing good. And you know, his associate pastor is leading Sundays. And so this has affected the church. Their attendance is lower when they ought to be rallying, and it'd be higher, but
Yeah.
I won't get on that soapbox, but I do want to pray for him. And then Ronnie Garrett, our other planter, at work was in a person's house. That person later called his boss and said they tested positive, that his worker may need to test. So they sent him home and made him go get a test. He didn't have the results from it, so he did not want to come here tonight. And so he will be watching, just like our brothers from Uganda, with all of our technical difficulties as well. But anyway, I want to pray for him that he's not positive. I told him he could come and sit way away from everybody, and he said that he felt that if he did that and then somebody, he was positive and somebody got sick, he didn't want to deal with that. So I said, that's fine. So he doesn't know that he was actually exposed, but he didn't want to take the chance. So yeah, that's good.
My daughter, Sydney Price.
Okay.
It's
she's struggling right now. It's a long story with her, but just lift her up.
Sydney,
Price.
what else?
We have some friends of marriage with criminal society.
Mm,
Satan's attacking the families.
it is, he is.
We need to keep all marriages in prayer.
All right,
Pray for overhaul because he's planting the church in Pennsylvania.
he's the one that went to Pennsylvania. Okay, I heard about that today, that we had a biker planter in Pennsylvania, but I didn't know it
Yeah,
was
his wife got transferred up there for assignment,
Mhm,
and
for work.
he said God kept calling on him, and he said finally had to answer the call.
Okay, good, good. He was gonna plant here, I think, in San Antonio,
Mhm.
and then his wife got transferred to Pennsylvania, and so he said, then we'll plant in Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
So, well, that's a positive though. That's
Yeah, that's a good one.
That's the way
So
to do it.
let's pray for these things. We're late getting started, and I want you to hear from Brother Tim more than me, but I do want us to pray. So let's go to the Lord. Lord, we thank you for who you are, and Lord, all of these things before they ever come off our tongue, you know. And so, Lord, I want to lift our planter, Larry Robert, to you. And Lord, I know that he's fighting this thing. And we just pray, Lord, that you help him to recover, that you give him strength. Lord, be with Gina as she's worried about him. But Lord, we're asking you to intervene as the great physician and to touch him, help his body to get rid of this fluid and to begin the healing process. Lord, I lift up Ronnie to you. We pray that he, in his exposure, did not contract COVID. We thank you for his concern for the brothers and sisters here to not come and expose them as well. So Lord, just be with him and his family. And Lord, be with Sydney. And Lord, you know her situation, and all of us have had struggles at times, but we never need to lose sight of you and who you are in our life. And so I just pray that this would be a time she would draw close to you. And Lord, I do pray for Sylvester and Tina's friend, and for both of them. And Lord, whether their relationship can continue to move forward past this, we don't know. But Lord, I just pray that both of them would realize that you meant for us to be together until death parts us. And so, Lord, I just pray that they would draw close to you. I pray, Lord, that they would remember what that commitment was really supposed to mean. Lord, we know that our families all across this nation are under attack. And Lord, you are the only answer to that. Lord, I do pray for overhaul as he has just decided that since plans were changed, he's moved completely across the country, but still recognize that didn't change his calling, that didn't change what you desire him to do in planting. And so, Lord, we just pray for the success of that, for Freedom Road as their sponsor, and just pray, Lord, that you move in a powerful way through him in that church plant there. And Lord, thank you so much for Brother Tim and for the insights he has. And Lord, I just pray that tonight we would clear our hearts, clear our minds, just be open to what he has, and that you would use him powerfully tonight. It's in your name we pray. Amen. So it's all yours, brother. Just give them a little bio of yourself. You've done some incredible things.
Well, good to be here tonight. Glad to see each of you. I've been in Christian ministry officially for 45 years now. Started preaching when I was 15 years old. And first time I preached was to an associational youth rally of 500 other kids. And so I've been involved in church planting most all my life. My dad was a church planter when I was 3 years old, and from then on. And so I grew up as the kid, in the home, seeing dad do that. When I surrendered to the ministry, I was 9, and then started preaching at 15. Became a youth minister at age 16, and I've been on church staff or employed by churches, Baptist churches, ever since then. So went to Southwestern, Wayland University, Southwestern Seminary, married my wife there, studied church planting at the seminary. That was my emphasis at Southwestern. And then while we were in seminary, I pastored a little country church in Weatherford, Texas, called Beulah Baptist Church in Millsap, Texas. And Beulah Land. Yeah. So after seminary, the Lord moved us to Eastern Colorado. I'd grown up in Colorado Springs. Moved us to Eastern Colorado, Yuma, where I was pastor of First Southern Baptist Church of Yuma, Colorado. And while I was pastor there, we started a new church in the neighboring town called Ray. And the Lord just blessed that effort in unbelievable ways. Lots of stories. But that was just kind of a fulfilling of who we are and where we've been going. After Colorado, 4 years pastoring there, the Lord called us to missions in Argentina. I've been fluent in Spanish since I started studying in junior high and have never quit studying. So I was fluent in Spanish already. Cindy and the kids had to go to language school, but I just dove right in Costa Rica. And then we were in Argentina for 9 years. Doing church planting. We started a church in the town where we lived, where we moved to. And then after that, we started 4 other churches in the neighboring towns around us during those years. And in 1998, I'm terrible on chronology, but it was 1998. Out of the blue, the Lord plucked us up and moved us to Gatesville, Texas. And I became the director of missions there. Lots of long story there, but it was just one of those, the hand of God was saying, you're not going to go back. I wanted to go back to Argentina, but he didn't, that wasn't part of his plan. And so went to Gatesville, served as director of that association, Tri-Rivers Baptist area. Then I worked with the BGCT for 3 years in between, and then I've been here at the Waco Association for 12 years now. And in all those capacities, I've been involved in church planting, mentoring pastors, preaching, working in church work at this kind of a level. So the things I've accumulated over the years, I've treasured. The people gave me things. Nothing tonight I'm going to speak about is original, but God has put some really unique people in my life that really blessed me and helped me through the years, and I've just hung on to those and put them into practice, like you said. Real quick anecdote. When I was 9 years old, we had a snowstorm in Colorado Springs. My dad, being the director of that association, invited 4 preachers who were stranded by the blizzard to stay in our home till the blizzard passed. So they stayed 3 days in our home. And I was just a kid, 9-year-old kid. And one of those pastors took a real interest in me. So for 3 days, he sat me downstairs on the couch and taught me about how to have a prayer life, just 3 whole days.
Right.
He asked me if he could send back some books later to mail them to me. And I said, sure. So I got the books in the mail and found out he was the author of those books. And it was Peter Lord, who had been in that time one of those world famous teachers and preachers about prayer. So I had 3 days of his attention in my basement, talking to me about how to develop a prayer life. So my God's been faithful all through the years to serendipitously, graciously, gratuitously pour people, thoughts, patterns, ideas into my life. So nothing I'm sharing tonight is really originally mine. It's all accumulation of some of that stuff, all mushed together. I do like this book a lot, Getting Things Done, The Art of Stress-Free Productivity. I was introduced to the art of coaching as a professional discipline when I was serving with the BGCT. And he is a professional coach, and I was introduced to this material back then. And in fact, the BGCT sent me to some professional coach training, and I became a certified professional coach with the International Coaching Federation. And so part of that was this kind of material. And I have seen pastors' lives literally change when I introduced them to this material. This is not necessarily a Christian book, but I'm going to be putting a lot of Christian thought and spin into it. David Allen's not necessarily a Christian author, but he just understands modern life and the traps of it, and a way to see yourself clear, to navigate through this terribly complex world that we're in. So my heart's with you. I've been a church planter. I work with church planters, love church planters, love church planting, but I also know that it's a very, very challenging job. There's nothing easy about church planting, and especially if you're bivocational church planter, which most of us tend to be, these days doing something else to earn our living and then also start a new church. All the more reason to get a handle on how are you going to organize your day? How are you going to organize your time today in order to get God's work done and make a living and take care of your family and keep your body healthy and get sleep and on. I don't call this course or this little session time management because nobody can manage time. You can't put your fingers on it. You can't grab it. You can't stop it. You can't pause it. You can't speed it up. Time, it just is. It's this river we're flowing through. And you're not going to manage that. You're not going to manage the life that comes at you. You could get a phone call when you get home tonight that could change all of your plans for tomorrow. Easy. You're not going to manage all that comes at you in this giant river of life. There are very few things actually that we have some control over in this life. One of those is ourselves. We do have autonomy. We do have agency. We have the God-given privilege, right, responsibility to think and choose and manage ourselves. What does that mean? That means, I don't know what all y'all are going to do after this meeting's over, but I'm going to decide in my head, I'm going to walk out that door and I'm going to walk out that door and go get in my car and drive home. And I know where that is. I'm in charge of that, right? I can do that. I can manage that. I can't manage what you do. I can't manage what's going to happen on the highway, but I can manage what I do. Okay. Now, our challenge in modern life is not getting more done because we are getting more done than ever in history. Our productivity is skyrocketed. What all we can accomplish with computers, cell phones. Oh my goodness. You're in touch. You can at the touch of your fingers do videos. You can post on Facebook. You can talk to people across the globe. So the challenge isn't really getting more done. Actually, that's probably one of our problems. We attempt to do too much. We embrace too much. And in that greed or hurry or ambition to do it all, we fail to understand what are the right things to do today for me. Those are key decisions. What am I going to do today that will fulfill God's calling upon my life and get me to where God wants me to be at the end of this day? That's why I call this managing yourself to get the right things done. If I were to give you a big chart paper and say, I want you to write down all the things you could possibly do tomorrow, all the possible things you could possibly do. You could fill that chart paper up with teeny weeny little print from edge to edge, couldn't you? I could call this person, I could call that person, I could write a letter, I could go here, I could shop, I could buy, I could click, I could do, I could watch, I could be, I could go, I could travel, I could, so the options out there are almost infinite for us. Thus the problem. How do I figure out what I need to do tomorrow and then do it? And if I can do that, then I'm successful. Then I'm doing what God has called me to do. So this hour that we're going to spend together isn't about making to-do lists or fancy organizers or fancy planners or fancy time schedulers or whatever project management software. It isn't really about any of that. It's about how to manage yourself to get the right things done. Now, I am not going to exaggerate, but this hour could save your ministry.
Yes.
I talked to a pastor yesterday who I had this little talk with him about 5 years ago. Gave him this book. We met on the phone. We met in person a couple times. His church, his ministry was in a mess. Primarily because he kept forgetting things. He kept dropping commitments. He'd say, I'm going to go do this, and then he'd forget to do it. He'd get to Saturday night and not have his sermon ready. He would, always be late. He was disorganized. His office was a jumbled mess. He was busy, but he wasn't getting the right things done. Yesterday, this is as fresh as that, he called me and affirmed again, for the many times he's done this, that saved my ministry. He also said it saved his family. Because he finally got his mind around, how do I manage myself to get the right things done each day? It's not how to get more stuff done, it's how do I get the right things done each day. It could save your life. There's another pastor who's no longer in the Waco area, but actually getting a hold of this daily routines, daily thought patterns, I believe actually saved his life by his own words. So I want to dive into your view of God to start with. Your view of God will impact how you understand and benefit from this hour. 2 Peter 1:3 says, his divine power has given us everything we need for a godly life through our knowledge of him who called us by his own glory and goodness. This scripture is out of context for you at this moment, but if you go back and look at the whole book of 2 Peter, you realize he's talking about how to do your ministry, how to follow Christ and be a follower of Christ. This is a nugget out of the middle of that. Here's my hypothesis. I think much of our chaos and disorganization and failure to do the right things each day is because we don't believe that God has made us to be enough and given us enough time and enough resources to accomplish his will. Somewhere deep in the recesses of our mind, we're worried we're not enough, or God's not enough, or this day isn't enough. That for some reason, we've accepted the idea that God has dumped on us a 50-ton dump truck load of to-dos, and we only got a wheelbarrow and a shovel. That is not the picture of Scripture. God hasn't called us to do impossible stuff. He hasn't called us to do beyond what we're able. He hasn't called on us to do what Joe needs to do. He hasn't called on me to do what Carl needs to do. But he has given me enough to do what Tim needs to do today. His divine power has given us everything we need for a godly life. Is church planting part of his call on your life? He's given you enough time to do that, enough knowledge, enough energy, enough years, enough resources to do it. You're enough. You have enough. God is enough. Today's enough. A lot of our helter-skelter and sense of living in panic and chaos falls away when we can finally get our minds around that God is enough for me. Now, I'm not going to please everybody around me. I'm not going to get everything done that everybody around me thinks I ought to do. Other people put burdens on me that God didn't put. Part of my task is to filter those out and say, yeah, that's a good thing to do, but that's not my thing. I'm going to focus on my thing. You focus on your thing, and together we're going to get it done. If I can daily figure out what is it that I need to do today? What's the right thing for me to do today? I can let a lot of the other stuff fall away, or just, I don't leave people hanging. If somebody says, well, will you do this? And I look at my thing and say, yeah, I can't do that. I'm sorry. I'll tell them so they're not waiting on me. But I'm not going to pick up everything everybody throws at me. I'm not going to answer and respond to every email everybody sends me. I'm not going to do every task that everybody asks me to do. I'm not going to pick up and do every favor that everybody asks me to do. I came to a point back early in my ministry that I figured out I had one boss in this world. God Almighty. Matthew 6:33, if I seek him first and his kingdom, his righteousness, all these things will be added unto me. I was at a point in my ministry at that point where I was really at a crossroads. There were some issues in the church I was pastoring, and the choice was really plain. Do what God's called you to do, or do what all these people want you to do. It was that simple. I went for a long jog, and that verse came back to me from childhood. I came back and said, I know I only have one boss in this world. He's my employer. He's going to put food on my table. He's going to take care of my children. He's going to take care of my family. And I just have to be clear on that. I'll serve the Lord. You guys are great. I love this church. Y'all are wonderful, but this is just, I've got to do my one thing. So when we get it simplified like that a little bit, like everything we need, what is everything we need? It's not everything we want. It's not everything everybody else wants, but it's everything I absolutely need to live in a godly way, to accomplish God's purpose and to be God's man in this hour today. It brings it all down to a whole lot more simple and less nerve-wracking, less anxious, anxiety producing. If I even had you write right now on a piece of paper, all the things that you have to do that are just pending right now in your life, and gave you an hour to do it, I bet you'd stay writing for an entire hour.
Oh, yeah.
You would, wouldn't you? Everything that's broke that you should be fixing, everybody that, all the things you should do for your children, all the things you should do for your spouse, all the things you need to do for your job, all the things if you were just to start writing, and that's why this isn't a to-do list writing exercise. It's really to get down to, how do I perceive my life, my time, my existence here in space, on this earth, in light of God and his ownership of my life, in order that I can finally figure out what is it that I and only I can do, and what is it that I and only I need to do. When I can understand that, when I can get a grip on that and say, okay, this is my job. I need to do this today. And I can set about that with focus and clarity and energy and finish it. That's getting things done. And that's getting things done, the art of stress-free productivity. You see where that comes from? It's like, until you have this mental shift, like, I do have enough time today to do everything I really need to do. I do. I have enough resources to do everything God's called me to do. I am enough. I am enough to do God's will today. And that's all I need. When I get to that point, I can be stress-free and I can be productive. Okay? So it's a theological problem in the very beginning. What kind of God do you serve? Jesus said, come unto me, all you who labor and weary and heavy laden. What does he say?
Give you rest.
I will give you rest, for my yoke is easy, my burden is light.
Mhm.
You don't see the disciples running ragged with their tongues hanging out, sleep deprived, taking caffeine shots to stay awake. Well, maybe they should have on the Garden of Gethsemane. But you don't see them living this helter-skelter, anxious, chaotic life. It's like, let's go to Philippi. Okay, we'll go to Philippi. Let's cross the sea. Okay, let's cross the sea. Good idea. Let's feed these 5,000 people. Well, that's a great idea. Let's do that. And you see that they're a bit like sheep, right? Just kind of following dumb behind the master. But that's really who we are. we're supposed to be kind of like that, kind of dumb sheep, just following behind the master. There's always a thousand more things to do. But seldom do we actually limit it down to what do I need to do today. Of course, we could go into the story of Martha and Mary, and Martha always gets beat up and Mary gets praised, for sitting down and listening. But, there was a shift there. There was a comparison there that happened, a difference there that happened where one of them discerned in that moment, this is important, to sit and listen. And the other one hadn't quite figured that out yet. Now, bless her heart, we're all more Martha than we are Mary. We're all more Martha than we're Mary in that case. But there has to be a mental shift in our life where it's like that chaotic, helter-skelter, disorganized, confused life full of anxiety is not normal, and it's not God-pleasing, and it's not productive, and it's not helpful, and it's not healthy, and it's not what we're supposed to be. In America, we talk about being busy as if it's a badge of honor. How are you? Oh, I've got so many things to do. This is unbelievable. And basically what we're trying to communicate is I am really, 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 really important. And you need to know that. I want you to know how important, big cheese I am. You need to know that. I'm going to tell you why. Because I have all these people that depend on me. I have all these responsibilities. And that that's not godly either. Our godliness comes from our simplicity. Our godliness comes from our quietness, our rest. We get into sin when we get off out in the busy world, don't we? We end up messing up. We say stuff we regret. We break stuff. We buy stuff that we end up turning around and throwing away. We waste and waste our life in dissipation, just ending up with nothing. When we dive into that mindset of hectic, chaotic, and overcommitted, overbusy is normal and right. It is not right. It is not godly, and it's not what God's called us to be. In fact, one of the 10 commandments is stop. Right? Just quit. Sit down, rest. One of the 10 commandments. That's for the lay people, right? Not us ministers. We don't need that. Right? It starts with our view of God. I can tell you that because if you don't change your attitude about what God's called you to do, you don't change your mentality about all that God's put on your plate to do, none of the rest of this is going to help you at all. Okay? It's going to be frou fla 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 and more to do and more tasks and more this. You got to get a point where you say, God loves me. God knows me. God knows exactly what I'm capable of. And he's only asking me to do what I can do in my little old life. That's all he's asking. And that's okay. So tonight we're going to use some key terms, and I want to define them because sometimes we don't always agree on them or think clearly. And a lack of clear thinking is part of our problem. A task is actually a simple to-do thing, activity that you can actually start and do probably in one session. Okay, that's what we call a task. Okay, so it'd be like go by HEB and pick up the groceries. That's a task, right? I mean, there's multiple steps to it, but in my mind, I can grab that and think that's one of my tasks for today is pick up the groceries. Okay, a goal is a little bigger, broader, more complex than that, longer, enduring. A goal is actually something that I feel God is calling me to achieve that isn't achieved yet, but it's going to take a while. And I like to use the acronym SMART, S-M-A-R-T, because that helps me articulate what I'm actually trying to do in a way that's useful. S-M-A-R-T means S is sensible. It makes sense for me. M means it's measurable. I can tell when I get it done. Okay. A means it's attainable. It's actually achievable for me. R means responsible. I can identify exactly who's responsible for what in it. T is its time stamp. So many of us work with goals in our brains, fuzzy, blurry thinking. Like, I want to start a new children's ministry on Wednesday nights. And, that sounds identifiable. Yeah, I know what you might have it in your head, what a new children's ministry might look like. But as long as you talk about it in fuzzy terms like that, there's several things that happen. You don't know what to do next. So sometimes you're paralyzed. You can't share it with somebody else so that they can actually help you. If you can articulate it in a concise fashion, other people can pitch in and help. Okay, so this is the advantage of thinking a little more sharply, a little more clearly. The other thing is you never have a sense of accomplishment, like you never get it done quite. You may be 8 years down the road thinking, I still need to start that children's ministry. And some things have happened good, and some things, but we're flying by the seat of our pants day by day by day by day, and we're really not sure if we got anywhere or not. So writing out a SMART goal is part of a helpful activity. We'll get to that in a minute, more detail. Values are those things that are within us that define who we are. They are those permanent, indelible character traits, things that we are going to hold on to because they matter, by golly, to us. A project is a multiple goal, multiple phase, multiple parties, big deal. A project might be at an education wing onto the church building. That's a big project, right? It's not a task. It's not even a goal. It's a project. I mean, you got to get engineers involved. You got to get city planning involved, permits, contractors, materials, committees, that's a project. Your mission is what drives you each day to live. I had, when I was on the mission field, a supervisor who challenged me. He said, what is your life mission? And I answered him humming and and I talked about 15 minutes. And he said, no, I meant one sentence. It was like, huh? He says, you ought to be able to explain your mission, what you sense God put you on the earth to do, in a few words, a simple, concise statement. It took me 6 months to work through that one, figure out what is my mission, And I had to work with all these things in my mind, my heart, in relation to my family, in relation to my community, in relation to the church, my job, my body, why am I here? But your mission is that thing that will carry you from age 15 to age 80, and kind of be the centering answer to what do you need to do today. These things all line up like an arrow when you start getting the hang of this. I'm just defining it at this point. Vision is a preferred future. It's that thing that you're striving for in the next few years that God's called you to build or accomplish. Those are some just terms that as we go through, they'll be important. You'll be able to distinguish that. Sometimes all we think about are, there's the SMART acronym. You may want to know what that is in a minute. A lot of times we mix up tasks with projects, with mission, with vision, with goals, and we get all that muddied up together in one blob. And we look at that in the morning, and no wonder it is not helpful for us to decide what to do today. Because it's all gummed up. It'd be like, putting the laws of the United States together with the laws of Texas and the Constitution and whatever else in a blender and dumping them out on a table and sorting it out and saying, now I'm supposed to get my directions from this. It's like too much, too big, too jumbled up, so that's why I'm dividing these up. Tasks, what are they? Goals, what are they? Projects. We'll talk a little bit about that. So there's a SMART goal. I'll have you write a smart goal here in a minute. Today's focus is going to be on these inner circles here. The goals and tasks. This part, I wish I could spend some time. How do you figure out your life mission? But we're not going to talk about that tonight. I wish I could talk about how do you understand and float to the top. What are your life values? You need to know those things. Because when you get out here, these are going to give shape to those. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Your vision is what are you trying to build? Out of your values, out of your mission. And your goals and your tasks are just your daily stuff that you're going to be working on. And that's where you get the handle on what am I going to do today? What I'm going to do today is either related to a goal or a task. That's the two choices. But they will flow out of your sense of mission, your values, and your vision. They'll come from your heart if you're really on task.
And Brother Tim, we teach in the beginning, one of our first classes, now it's on the church level, but we teach developing mission, vision, and values.
Great, right.
So they've had
Some exposure to
some
that.
exposure to that.
That's awesome. Pursue that. You know, that's going to take some quiet times of prayer with God and retreats and journaling. But when you get clarity on that, of, you know, why am I here? Why am I soaking up oxygen and eating food? You know, what is my purpose in life? When I can figure that out, then my tasks and my daily goals, those things make sense. It's all lined up with why I'm here. These don't come out of thin air. They come out of who we are, who God's made us to be. You know, there are people, and it's stunning to me, the variety God's created on this earth, how different you are from me, how different each of us are. The mission God's put in our hearts, the vision God's created in us, you know, and we're just a bunch of mud, you know, stuck together with God's breath in us, you know, but at the end of the day, whenever we're dead and gone, they'll put us back in the ground and we'll turn back to mud, you know? And you think, how can a hunk of mud do that? Isn't that amazing? With God's breath in us, we can do God's eternal things. Hunks of mud, you know, living hunks of mud. So anyway, those they all flow together, but we're not going to talk about them. We're going to talk about the goals and the tasks tonight. All right, so now you got a piece of paper in front of you somewhere. Decide why you want to live differently. Make a quick list of the words that describe your current life this week. I want about 15 words on that page. Just random words, sentences, words, things that describe your life right now. I think I just stole somebody's water.
No, I got that for you.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, and I should have told you that. Yes, that's yours.
Now it is.
Yeah.
Things that describe your life right now. Could be how your spouse would describe your life, or how your children would describe your life to you, or how your neighbors.
My wife looked down here.
Oh, that's a dumping looking this way.
Old. Oh.
That was something good you can put down.
I did, well,
Oh,
I don't know. And God's in here for a reason.
I told you.
He sent them to me for a
I
reason.
told you last week, you go get something from Tim.
It's only a year. It's funny.
I'm not even doing it.
Everybody got 10 words or so, or 15? No, not yet.
No, he's.
I can't spell chaotic.
It's for your own use. You spell it however you want to spell it.
I'm Cajun, so it starts
Let's
with a K.
do it.
There you go.
There you go, K, fine.
Yeah, it can be good. It doesn't necessarily all have to be bad.
He's called you to plan. That's a good.
Yeah.
That's under business. But that's, well,
All right.
you need to be about your father's business.
We're going to the next list. Now make another list of words that you want to describe your life.
That's a good one.
Yeah. What are the words you would like to describe your life? What you wish you could say, my life is this.
Exactly.
There you go.
I hope you have time after we finish. I want to sit and talk with you. If you have time.
Give me his
With-
phone number.
That'll work. That'll probably work.
Yeah, because he's got to manage his time, okay?
Yeah.
I'll
you
be
what
messing
you
his
do.
time
Yeah, he
up.
told you.
Told you what I'm gonna do when this is
I'm
over.
here messing his time up.
Wife's waiting on me.
Uh-oh.
All right. Let's have a couple people share. What do you got on your first list, second list? Volunteers.
Chaotic.
All right. On the first list,
Mhm.
would you give me a good word on the second list?
Relaxed.
Relax. Cool. Anybody else? Give me a word off of each list.
Changing.
Okay.
Peaceful.
Peaceful. Good. Somebody else? Well, no, they don't have to match. Not at all. They're just two separate lists. No, not necessarily.
Yeah, that's what they call it.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Just pick a couple random words. Words of faithful,
Painful.
painful.
Physically.
Okay, a lot of pain. Thank you.
That hurt.
All right.
Enjoyment.
Enjoyment. Cool. Somebody else want to share? You want to share anything?
Managing and image bearing.
Good. Image bearing. Excellent. Good. We realize that at some point we're preaching an abundant life that we're not living.
Right. Right.
We're preaching an abundant life like a sheep with a great shepherd in a beautiful green pasture beside a quiet river in abundance, having everything they need. I will lack nothing. Psalm 23. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall lack nothing. We preach that, but we have to acknowledge we're not necessarily living it. And then we wonder why people aren't following us. What will it take to get us there? Only changing the way we manage our life, manage our tasks, our goals. That's got to be a part of it. It's got to be a part of getting to a better, abundant life, a better example, image bearing, a better image of Christ. a better follower of Christ.
Full trust.
Yeah, full of trust, full of faith, full of joy, full of peace, full of yeah. Jesus said, let your yes be yes and your no be no. And he also said, don't swear. I'm paraphrasing, but
No, yeah.
those, Jesus said that. I had I got a triple major in college. One was elementary education. I had an elementary education professor teaching on classroom discipline. Talk about don't ever threaten something that you're not willing to do with a child, And her example was, if you threaten to break the child's arm, if they do that one more time, and they do it one more time, you better go break their arm. I was like, oh my gosh. Well, no, and it was like stunning, and she meant it to be stunning. She said, then don't threaten to break their arm.
Right.
That was her point. She went, but to me, over the years, it's become apparent that as ministers, we have ministerial speaking, and our yes doesn't mean yes, and our no doesn't mean no. And so much of our life gets gummed up because of that lack of simplicity, that lack of transparency, that lack of courage to just say what things are. So when you tell Aunt Betsy, I'll call you at 5 this afternoon when I get home, you better call her at 5. It's simple. When you make a commitment, I'll be there on Sunday at 9 o'clock to visit with you. Be there, But the only way you can get to that point where your life is a yes, yes, and a no means no, is if you're managing yourself well. Otherwise, you're always running behind the 8 ball, and you always got excuses. You're always letting people down, and people learn not to trust you. You teach them not to trust you, that you don't mean what you say. So this goes really deep in very simple ways. It's like when you plan your day, don't plan it so stinking full you can't do it all. Leave some space, leave some gaps. When you plan your week, don't plan it all so stinking full that you can't possibly accomplish it. You're not doing anyone a favor by doing that. So changing the way we handle our goals and tasks will get us to a peaceful life, a restful life, a purposeful life, an image-bearing life. But we have to begin with that discipline of making our yes, yes, and our no, no, and thinking clearly and spending some mental time before we make commitments and keeping track of our commitments and living in a transparent way. I like that. So a lot of this that I'm about to get into is all aimed towards that, towards how do you achieve a life like that, where you don't forget promises, you don't fail people where you set them up, and you show up and you fulfill, all of your commitments. How do you get there? Okay, so one of the things that this talks about in getting things done, this book by David Allen, is you've got to get to the point where you get all of it out of your head and onto paper. Many times we live with this jumble of promises, commitments, calendars, to-do lists, tasks, things that need fixing, people that need calling. It just accumulates right up here. And do you know that psychologists have proven we can't keep 20 things in our head? We can't even keep 10 things in our head. And yet we think we're going to keep track of all of next week in our head. So in a real practical way, how do we get up in the morning, wake up, roll out of bed, and in those next 15 or 30 or 60 minutes, determine what am I going to do today? Some people wake up fresh with a blank sheet of paper and they just do whatever the heck they curse to them. They don't tend to go much places, but they do have fun.
Schedules.
So you got a calendar, right?
Yeah.
You keep a calendar. You keep a task list, right? You keep other commitments. The point of this book in general is that your brain is a really bad organizer. It's a really bad rememberer. You're not going to keep it all up in your head. I don't care how good you think you are. We can't multitask. Psychologists have proven that. Honest to goodness, we can't multitask. We switch tasks, but we can't do two things at once. We just can't. Our brains are not built that way. Texting and driving. Yeah, that's a perfect example, of when you're driving, drive, please, when you text. Otherwise, you're going to mix something up real bad, text the wrong person that you love them. Oops, I didn't send that to you. I was going 85 miles an hour down the freeway and I texted the wrong person, the wrong thing. Or saying things that we're not thinking about, making commitments we haven't prayed through. We're living a life because we're trying to live out of our head. Yeah, so part of this is to get it all out of our head and down into somewhere so that we can later use it and find it. Now, we're not talking about notebooks full of 1,000 to-do lists. That's not going to be helpful. We'll talk about some details of that in a second. But the overall change here that you've got to envision for yourself is stop living out of your head and start living out of a purposeful plan where something else is helping you make good decisions day by day about what are you going to do with these few hours that you have available to you today. When you have something concrete, something in front of you that you can say, that's what I need to do today. You can nail it down and say, that's it. Then you can actually do it. You can get it done and you feel good about it.
Yep.
So we want to get it out of our head onto our paper. What do we have in our heads? Everything. Unbelievable, isn't it? All those things. Dreams, unreturned phone calls, people who need to talk to us, budgets, bills, things that need to be fixed, relationships, conflicts, plans, vacations. It's all in our heads. And it's no wonder we can't think a clear thought all the way through to the end because it's all jumbled up. How does it work? Well, I start thinking about, I need to read that book, and I go to grab the book and the bookshelf is really dusty. Gosh, I need to dust that shelf. And then I go to get the rag and I realize the laundry hadn't been done. And then I want to get the laundry done, but then I realize, I got to put soap on the list for the grocery store because I haven't done that. And then we go to the grocery store and we figure out, why did I come here? What's going on? Why am I here? And we go down and buy some sugar daddies or, some candy and feel better about ourselves. But we haven't gotten anything done. We've been busy, but we haven't gotten a dadgum thing done.
Right.
Because we haven't actually sat down and looked at it and figured out what in the world do I want to do and what do I need to do. So getting it out of our heads onto a paper or a digit. Now, there's basically two kinds of people in the world. Both are good people made in the image of God. But some are paper people and some are digital people. And some switch some point in their life, but don't try to be both. Okay, one of the commandments of this kind of an approach to simplifying your life is you can only have one calendar because you don't have two lives. If you can color code things, family things are blue, work things are red, fine, but it's on one calendar. Okay, so it can't be a calendar up here and then a calendar here and then a calendar on the refrigerator and then a calendar at my office. It can't be. You're not going to get it done. You're going to forget something. So what do? Paper or digital? I'm at this point 100% digital, but I don't care. If you're a paper person, go 100% paper. Okay. And so all the things we're going to talk about, you figure out which one you are. All the things we're going to talk about in the next few minutes, do that on your paper, if you will, or do that on your digital, if you will. But we're going to get all these things out of our head onto paper so that we can each day decide, what do I need to do today? All right. So what will work for you with your family, with your job? You know, I like digital because I can share it with my wife, my calendars, my shopping list, my to-do list. We have all that. So she can pull it up on her phone. I can pull it up on my phone. She knows where I'm at. I know where she's at. She, you know, we got it synced so our family works well that way. My secretary at the office has my calendar. She knows where I'm at. You know, to do this, we have a system where this is the one system we're going to use for this, you know, for organizing ourselves, our work. You know, at work, we use Slack. If I'm going to send you a message, if you're going to send me a message, I don't want text message. I don't want FaceTime. I don't want whatever through Fry. It's Slack for us at our office. You know, but it's one medium, one platform. And it's not that Slack's so great and others aren't. It's just that I don't want to respond to 20 different apps.
Right.
You know, I don't want to hear 15 different dings and bells and whistles. I want to know if I'm paying attention to this, I'm going to get what you sent me. Okay, so that's the same idea with calendars. You know, when my wife has a commitment, I want her to put it on the calendar. I can see it. When I forget, what are you doing tomorrow? I can look at it again and remember, what are you doing tomorrow? You know, one calendar, whatever it is. We're digital, but there's not any magic to that. What will work for you on the long haul will work for you and your family and your job. So decide and then stick with it. Only one system, one calendar, one task list, one location, you know, so that you know exactly what you need when you need it. For example, we use Evernote for our other projects and miscellaneous stuff. So there's an Evernote, a little note in there, Sam's Club. So whenever Cindy figures out she needs something from Sam's Club, she knows to go click on that, adds the item to Sam's Club. I'm not going to Sam's Club every day. She's not either, you know, but when I need something, I'll put it on that list. When she needs something, she'll put it. So when we go to Sam's Club, guess what? It's like, click, I have everything we need right there already. And it's no panic. And I just walk up and down the aisles, get it, and be done and be out of there in a hurry. And it takes less time to be organized than not to be organized. Okay, so
And
one,
then you didn't forget the list on the refrigerator because it's in your.
yeah, and it's synced in the cloud. So for us, it works perfect. But some people want a notebook. That's fine. Just keep the same notebook.
And you got to carry it with you where you go.
But your wife also has to be able to get to it.
Take a picture of it before you leave.
Yeah, there you go. Perfect. You just need to figure out a system and then
Right.
stick with it.
Right.
The thing I've noticed is we're dying from these sticky notes, you know. There's little notes written on a piece of toilet paper, a little note written on a plastic lid, a little note written on the menu, a little note written on the refrigerator, a magic marker on a marker board, and then a calendar there. We got all this stuff scattered everywhere. And it's like, no wonder I never get anything done. It's all in disarray. Well, why is our life chaotic? Huh? I wonder. It's because our brains are scattered all over the place. Okay, so we're talking about getting things down in a simple place. What I currently use, I use a Google Calendar, they're free. You can share it with anybody you like. People can see what they want. You can hide what you want. We use Google Drive, we use Evernote, and we use Toodly-Doo. There's nothing magic about this list, but it's just it's what we've settled on in our life. But guess what? That's 4 things. If I can keep track of those 4 things, I have everything I need at my fingertips. You know, okay? So in the middle of a conference, and the pastor, by the way, that told me yesterday that this thing had saved his ministry, he was with me in a conference and he saw that I had a break in the conference. And I went over and it was like a 15-minute stand-up break where everybody was chit-chatting and going to the bathroom. And I pulled up my Toodly-Doo list, which has all the calls I need to make that are pending, you know, calls I need to return, calls that people I need to call. And so I was able, in the foyer of the hall there, I was able to just pick the first one, click it, call, make a call, click, make a call. By the time that we reconvened at the session, I had wiped out all my phone calls I needed to make for the day. And they were done. And, you know, he was like, dude, that's like ninja karate, you know. It's just, I just write them down. Whenever I make a commitment, I'll call Larry to check on him. That was on my to-do list. Call Larry and check on Larry. Well, I wrote that down at an hour in the morning when Larry wouldn't have wanted to hear from me. Okay.
Or Gina especially.
Yeah, Gina. Well, so you can make these lists at any time. And then when the store's open or when Larry's able to answer the phone, you can do the things you need to do when you have the opportunity to do them. Or I'm driving by Sam's Club and it's like, that list is probably, pull it up. Yeah, I got 20 things to get. I'm here, and I'm making a special trip, stop in, get Sam's Club, go home. So, actually I end up saving time by taking time to organize it just a little bit. Does that make sense? It's just by keeping it concise.
Right. But then that make the assumption you're getting to choose. So when you work outside and this boss wants to use that method and this company wants to use that method, you're kind of stuck
Yep.
in your environment.
Yes.
So if you get to choose, that's great.
Yeah.
It's a little simplistic for most people in the world.
And you have to figure out what of this will work for you.
Yeah.
In your environment. Yep. And you're right. I have a lot of autonomy over, since I'm the boss at the office, I can tell people what to do, right? I can tell people what system to use.
Right.
But I can also, by doing that, help them not go crazy. There are people who make others crazy by how they manage them, by how they work at the office. Always popping in, interrupting, always, dinging, ringing, phone call, this, and you just drive people nuts because they can't ever get anything done because you haven't simplified how you're going to communicate back and forth. So you can, within this, there are principles you can use anywhere. Right.
I agree.
Yep. Okay. So if you do here's a 2-minute rule. This is kind of a caveat to all this stuff about writing everything down. If there's something that is at hand and you notice it, and it can be done in less than 120 seconds, just do it. And just do it, and take your 60 seconds and do it, get it done, and be over with it. I saw a little video about people with ADHD, which is legion. Everybody has ADHD these days, attention deficit disorder, or ADD. And it's one of the principles of being an ADD person and managing it is don't put it down, put it away. And that's a rule, for an ADD person to remember, don't put it down, put it away. So if it's like a dinner plate, you're unloading out of the dishwasher, instead of leaving it on the counter, it goes up there in the shelf. And it's that, 2 feet worth of travel that's going to save you and have a nice kitchen, if you put it away. Those little things that you learn to just slow down your life. I got 60 seconds. I'm just going to do this and then go on about your life. And your life takes on a different pace, a different rhythm that's not this helter-skelter chaotic thing. So if it's a 2-minute thing, just do it. And, it shouldn't go on a to-do list somewhere for a future date unless you can't do it at that time. So that's just kind of a sidebar. That's one of the things you liked that you learned.
Yeah.
So here's a 30,000 foot of this book, Getting Things Done, out of page 27. Step 1 is capture everything that's not as it should be that constitutes your giant inbox. Time for a break. It is, isn't it?
I gotta go back.
Go ahead.
It's what he put on his first list, old.
Oh.
2-minute rule.
Let me finish this slide and then we'll take a stand break. So this is kind of whizzing through this book very fast, going through all the big steps, and then you'll understand it as you get into it. So it shouldn't be stored in your head. It should be stored somewhere. Where's it going to be stored? Either digitally or on your paper. And you're going to clarify in step 2 exactly what needs to happen. Is it a project? It goes in the project list, okay, which is for me in Evernote. Is it a task? It goes in a to-do list. You remember the difference? Task is something I can do in one sitting. Project is going to take a while. Is it a goal? It goes in a goal list. Okay, so you keep those things separate as you're writing them down. That's what it means, clarify exactly what needs to happen. And one of the things we don't, the exercise is not to hash out every single step for a project and get it all on paper. That's a useless waste of a lot of time most of the time. For a project, all you need to know most of the time is the very next step. If you can identify that very specifically, like, for example, we're nominating new board members at the office. That's kind of a project for the association. Okay, so my very next step, I had 2 tasks: call Roy and call Jewel and ask them these questions. Okay, now that doesn't get all the nomination process done, but that's what I need to do next for that process. I don't need to write out every little step because I'm going to figure that out as I go, right? Okay, so write down specifically what needs to happen. Organize the results. Information is where it belongs. Now, once you figure out where you like the stuff, then you'll put it there repeatedly, and then you'll have it when you want it. For example, in my Google Calendar, under the details, under each event, I'll put all the PDFs, all the documents, all the telephone numbers, contacts, addresses, hotel name, whatever. All that will go in the appointment in the Google Calendar, under the notes, the details. So when I wonder, where am I going to park at this conference? I click on the conference, and lo and behold, right there it is, the instructions for parking, or the phone number for who I'm going to talk to. Everything about that conference is in that note about that conference on my calendar. When you have a project, like building a pizza oven in my backyard, I got an Evernote project, build a pizza oven, and in the pizza oven, I got photos of what I want to do, steps, shopping lists, items, projects, except everything I need to know about that pizza oven, I dump it in that one note in Evernote. So when I go to order something or go to pick something up at Home Depot, I pull up that, I need 6-inch flashing. Okay, I forgot about that. But it's all there in the spot where I'm going to be able to find it. So you organize your information where it belongs. Then you're going to reflect on it all regularly. I'll talk about that more in detail. And then you're engaged in what must be done. So at first, when you first start getting things done and you say, I want to implement this system for my life, you're going to need to take a few days. And if not a whole day, block off a half a day of vacation and another half a day of vacation and another half a day of vacation. A few days, it's going to take some time to get everything down out of your head, onto your papers, onto your computer, wherever you're going to put it, so that there's nothing remaining up here. Pardon? Nothing there anyway. It seems like you're never going to run out, but you will. You'll actually get it all done, okay? And the process will help you thin things out of, do I really need to do that? Maybe not. And delegate that to somebody else. Or maybe that's not important to me anymore. You scratch that off. But when you get it all on paper, then you can make some evaluations. Which one of these matters to me this week? Which one of these needs my attention right now? And you are also relaxed that I'm not going to forget anything. Okay, so on a weekly basis, you take a bigger look at all this stuff, your projects, your goals, your tasks, your calendar. And that's the weekly review. It takes a few minutes on one day. I do mine Monday morning. When you review what's going on in my life, and you might add some new things, you might take away some things you decided not to do. Some things got taken care of by themselves, scratch them out. You update all that, it's a weekly thing. And then on a daily basis, you engage in what must be done. And that's where you have fresh, I got these 8 projects pending. I need to do this, 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 and this. And I got this phone call and these tasks and this. And you see it all like a pilot flying at 30,000 feet above your life. And you can say, that's my target for the day. What I end up at the end of each of these morning sessions, each morning when I go to the office, I have a little Post-it note that's, I think, 3 inches by 3 inches. And as a result of all, I told you I do digital for everything, but the Post-it note is the one thing I do paper, because that's what I'm going to do today. And I usually end up with fewer than 5 things on that list for today. I need to do this, I need to get the agenda for the board meeting made. I need to enlist these 3 members for Latham Springs board. I need to do this and I need to do that. And those become then my challenge for the day. And if I can finish the day and wad that paper up and throw it in the trash, I feel great. I got everything done. Now, I don't have all my projects done. I don't have all my tasks done. I don't have all my phone calls. All that stuff is still there. But what I identified in the morning is this has to happen today before I go to bed. These 3, 5, 6 things. Shouldn't be more than 6 things on that piece of paper. So that you have that clarity throughout your day of what do I really need to get done. Now, that gives you space in your day to handle those things that you didn't expect. Your mother-in-law calls and says, hey, I want to visit. Say, okay, let's talk, or, you get a flat tire and you got to go get a new tire. That wasn't on your list, but you got to go get a tire. You can't, okay, so, but if you keep your list reasonable at the beginning of the day, you can handle the flat tire, you can handle the unexpected phone call. And if too many unexpected things start coming, you can make that judgment. Do I just start letting my phone calls go to voicemail so I can get this done? Or do I go ahead and keep picking these phone calls up? But you can decide rather than being decided for. You see, you begin managing your life rather than being managed by this giant river of stuff. So, you actually make some cold calculations of, well, at the end of the day, I'm not going to get those 3 phone calls made. That's okay. Cross them off. Maybe they didn't need to be made, whatever, or I can maybe do them tomorrow, something like that. So this is in a big, broad view what happens. So you start off at one time in your life, get yourself, your head emptied somewhere in an organized fashion. And then you maintain that week by week and day by day, so that each day you have real clarity about what is it I need to do today. And you get those few things done. We're going to take a stand-up break, and then we'll come back and dive into some more of the details. Oh, that's all right.
Oh, it hit me and I'm like, oh,
Yeah,
I'm at that age where we.
gotta go. Okay. So just before the break, we had looked at this of kind of the 30,000-foot view of what does this system look like? Basically, it's dump it all out of your head and get it in a giant inbox, clarify it, get it exactly where it needs to be and what needs to happen. That's going to take a while at the start of this, but believe me, the investment of that time will redeem itself in 1,000 ways over the next years. People will actually like you because you'll fulfill all your commitments. Change. Clarify exactly what needs to happen, organize the results, reflect on all of it regularly, engage in what must be done. That what must be done, that's the little list that I'm going to do today. Okay. And if by chance my little stick-em note doesn't get completed today, probably there's only one item left.
Right.
Because I've done most of it. And it's just a discipline that I've developed. And then, so I can carry that one thing over to the next day, and that happens sometimes, and it's okay. You just do what you can do, and God's grace covers it all. But I know that I finished today what I needed to finish today. And I can go to bed tonight and not worry about it. That, oops, I slipped up, or I missed that, or, and I get to Sunday and my sermon's already ready. I have the visits made that I need to make. I have the calls made that I need to make. And that stuff is done. Now, I don't write down everything I'm going to do in the day, like brush my teeth. That doesn't go on that list. I am going to take a bath. I'm going to get dressed. I'm going to eat breakfast. You don't need a calendar.
You have a start and stop time for your schedule?
I have a basically my work day.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Do you keep your calendar specific for that time frame, or do you have stuff that goes on afterwards?
Oh, my
that are-
calendar includes everything, including this tonight.
Like
It's on there. Like tonight is on there as a fixed commitment.
Mhm.
And for example, on the meeting about tonight, it's what am I going to teach? What am I going to use the link for the PowerPoint in Carl's number, Carl's email. All that was in the appointment for tonight. Also, I put in their family things. If I tell my son in New Mexico, I'm going to call you on Sunday afternoon, then I'll put it on my calendar. I'll say, call Joel at, 3:00-ish, Sunday afternoon. That's an appointment for me. That's as important to me as if I went to church in the morning and preached, at the right church. I got to show up at the right church. So keeping all that straight really matters. But when it's not in my head and it's on the calendar, I can literally forget it, and I'm okay. Frequently on Sunday night, because I'm like Tom in that I'm preaching at different churches almost every single Sunday. So Saturday night, Cindy will invariably ask me, where are we going to church tomorrow? Because she doesn't know. And a lot of times I have to look on my calendar and say, oh, we're going to go down to Bellevue, or we're going to be over at Meadowbrook, and it starts at 9:45 and I'm going to be doing this. And I have this part of the service. Oh, and I have to present a plaque. All that information's there so that I don't even think about it. When I leave on Friday noon to go home from the office, I'll review all that and make sure I've got everything for the weekend where it needs to be. And it's all in the car. So I don't even have to look for it. Whenever Sunday morning, I get up, get dressed, have a quiet time, visit with the wife, eat breakfast, go get in the car, and I know everything I need is right behind me in the bucket in my car, ready to go. And that's part of the relaxed advantage of I know where it's all somewhere, but it's not up here. I don't have to remember all that stuff. Okay, so now we're going to go on to some more detail. We're zooming down to about a 10,000 foot level. And these are some tips that are going to you're going to build a little icon of me and worship it every week. No.
All hail.
No. These are little things that can help your life be simpler. How many of you get more than 5 emails a day?
Yeah.
50?
I got 10,000.
Yeah, 150, okay. So there is an unsubscribe button on the bottom. A lot of those, you can do that. Please help yourself. Also,
Yes, but they're also, when you do that, they're gonna shuffle another advertisement.
something else.
Something.
Somebody
Yeah.
else shuffle feet.
So here's 4 Ds. All these begin with D, so as preachers, you can remember an alliteration. I actually regularly end my day with fewer than 5 emails in my box. And some days I end with nothing in my inbox as far as that goes. Why is that? Because I just apply one of these 4 Ds to everything there. If it shows up in my email inbox, I'm going to have to do one of these 4 things. Delete is my first choice. A lot of it's just, if it's a piece of information I need to know about a conference in November, I'll copy and paste the piece of information I need about that thing in November. I'll just copy that, go to the November event, open it up, paste it in there, delete the email. I'll never have to look for it again. It's gone. I don't need the rest of that garbage. I need that hotel, that phone number, that contact person. That's now in my calendar on that date, on that hour. Okay? So it's deleted. Do means if the email requires action from me, I'm the one that needs to respond to it. I'm the one that needs to do something about it. While I'm sitting at my email, if I have time, I'll just go ahead and do it. Kind of like that 2-minute thing where if it's a, let me think today, an email that I dealt with today. Yeah, so there was an email from the state convention saying, tell us about your annual meeting, time, place, schedule. Can we have a booth? Can we have a speaker? Basic questions that they needed a response from me. Respond, click, fill in the form, done, and then delete it. So it's done. Okay. And I don't need that email anymore. And I don't want to see it ever again. So
Ever.
I do it and I delete it. Defer, this is the cautious one. If it's a lot of information. It's a project that, you need to deal with when you have some time and, something to do with your new building project or whatever you're doing. Defer means that you're going to find a time on your calendar when you're going to actually do that. It's not just a wish list, but it's like, okay, I absolutely have to call that contractor and give them this information, but I can't do it right now. So when am I going to do that? I'm thinking through that. I'll call him this afternoon at 4. Open my calendar, click 4, call Bob, contractor. Here's his phone number, paste it in there, tell him these details. Say, it's a date on my calendar, then I can delete the email. But I've deferred till 4 o'clock this afternoon, but it won't get lost. See, it's done. I'm gonna deal with it at the right time when I put it at the right spot.
Right.
And I treat my calendar with equal respect. If a church calls and asks me to be at an anniversary, and then I commit and say I'll be there, and then a day later, a big giant mega church calls and wants me to speak, I say I'm busy. That's my commitment. I'm going to be at this anniversary already. Sorry, so I don't break commitments easily, unless it's really, really. Yeah, if it's something that I believe God really wants me to break a commitment, I'll do it, but rare. Yeah, that's part of being yes and yes and a no. And I can have this big speaking engagement. Oh, well, that's not what I'm living for. I want to live for integrity. I want people to know who I am, not how great a speaker I can be.
Right.
Defer is, not many get deferred. Most of them either delete or do. Delegate is when you actually have somebody in your job or somebody else in your family or somebody else that can actually do that better, or that's really their job. And so I'll hit forward, hey, Kayla, can you take care of this today? Let me know back when you do. Thanks. Click, done, gone.
Right.
I deleted out of my box. Okay. So my email box goes, whoop, and it's so nice, just empty. And then I don't mess with it the rest of the day. I don't keep checking back every hour, and I delegate a little bit of time and I do emails. But that's the way I deal with a lot of other incoming requests, phone calls, letters, requests that other people send me. And actually I have little bitty spots where I'll take care of all that kind of stuff at a designated time. For example, birthday cards. I send a birthday card and an anniversary card for the church anniversary for the pastor to the 92 pastors in our association. Well, that's 182 cards, in a year, if I get everybody, that much. But I don't do that every day. What I do is have her, she'll pull out all the anniversaries and all the birthdays for a month, and there'll be a stack of cards, and I'll write them all at once. I'll write them, handwrite them, a card and seal them, and there's a date on where she'll put the stamp. She'll mail it on the right date, but I've done it, and then I put it back on her desk, and she then puts a stamp on it, mails it on the right date, and then those get out. And it's a way that I can focus my time. I can pray for these pastors. I can write them a personal note. It's really from me, really to them, but I don't do that every day.
Right.
I just do it once a month, and it takes about 30 minutes, and so being organized, you can get more done, more efficiently, just by stuff like that. So daily and weekly habits. None of this makes sense to me if you're going to skip your quiet time.
Right.
And for me, the quiet time is in the morning. I can't imagine doing. I do a meditation and prayer at night before I go to bed, but my quiet time when I sit and listen to the Lord is in the morning. And it's not about the to-do list, but it's about my heart. How am I? Where am I? How's my body? How did I rest? How's my family? What's going on? Coming to peace with God, peace with me, those kind of things. The exercise, critical. Get the brain flowing, get the blood flowing, get the heart pumping. 6 days a week, you ought to be doing something to exercise your body. And then sit down and figure out what are today's critical tasks. That's a daily thing. And that's when I get that little slip, that Post-it note with 5 or 6 things. Well, that 5 or 6 things comes from this massive to-do list and project lists and goals and all. It comes from all those things, but it doesn't take a long time to flip through all my goals and think, what do I need to do about that next? What's my next step on that? What's my next step on that? I need to do that today. I'll put that on my list. And my tasks, what needs to be done today, and it's not hard to come up with that list of 5 or 6 things. But it's simple enough that when I put that on my monitor at the office, and I can walk in and see it, I can actually move to the next thing. I suffer an afternoon lag that's horrible. When I get up at 5 o'clock every morning, and by 2 o'clock, I want to take a nap. My brain's fuzzy and foggy, but I can actually walk in from a lunch meeting and sit down and look at that, on the computer monitor and see the other 2 things I have to do. And it's like, okay, I can do that and plug in and do it instead of getting lost in Facebook or getting lost in eating a snack or whatever. I can actually get back on track and do. And the idea is, man, I'd love to finish by 4:30 and be done. And if I get done early, I'll go home early. And it's like, okay, cool. I got it done. So we review today's critical tasks weekly, once a week. Then, and this talks about this in this book, you want to review your calendar, looking ahead next week, next 2 weeks, next 3 weeks, next 5 weeks. What do I need to be getting ready for? What do I need to be looking ahead towards? Got a deacons meeting. When do I get the agenda prepared? Those kind of things. By the way, if I have a deacons meeting or any kind of planning, any committee meeting, guess where the agenda items for that meeting accumulate in the weeks leading up to that? They're in the appointment on the calendar. Does that make sense? Okay, so as I think of something, our deacons need to talk about that, then it goes, I flip ahead to the deacons meeting, click open it, type in, deal with that. Let me show you we have a board meeting next week. I just wanted to show you that. Oops, I had the adapter right there. And there it is. There it goes. So I have a board meeting at 4 o'clock on Tuesday, and then I tapped on the board meeting itself. This is the meeting, and down in all the notes, these are all the items that we need to deal with during the board meeting and things I need to know for that board meeting are right there. So whenever I come to make the agenda, I'm not starting from scratch. All these things I've been accumulating go boom right there on that calendar item. And that's all saved right under WRBA board meeting in that one event. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So tonight I'm teaching church planting at the Bell Association. Got a map there, address, what I need to set
Put all that in on the event?
on the event under notes at the bottom.
She got educated tonight.
I'm trying.
You'll get it.
I don't see notes.
If you type a new event
Uh-huh.
and then scroll down and it'll say more.
Oh,
Okay. And that's what I mean by what do I put where I need it?
Right.
We built a little guest house in our backyard a couple of years ago. A project that took 18 months. My stars, just a construction that took 18 months, but it did. Absolutely everything about that project though went in one Evernote, a note in Evernote. So paint colors, contractors' numbers, estimates, contracts, dates, estimates, ideas, everything went in Evernote. So whenever I got a phone call from the contractor, like, I don't have the paint swatches anymore. Could you resend those to me? Yeah, I got the paint colors. Here they are. I knew where it all was, because I put it all right there. So this is what you do weekly. You do a calendar, your projects, and then you review your tasks. Did it freeze up? There's that the end.
That's fine. It's fine.
It is the end. Woo! Okay.
What? No, no.
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 More. There's gotta be more. I
Maybe
need to
they're
figure out
warmed up
my
now.
calendar.
Google Calendar. Change your life.
Put that on your calendar to practice with it.
There's also a little a way to organize, like, since I use all digital, I use Google Drive, Google Docs. And so I've created 12 folders for January, February, March, April, May, each for the month of the year. And those don't have a year on them, so that when I get an invitation for a Christian Women's Job Corps Baskets of Hope fundraiser dinner, that's going to be in November in an email, but the date's not set yet. But, this is a reservation, or I paid the money or whatever. I can just drop it in November in that folder. And then when I get done with November, everything for November is in November, just. So it's a matter of that extra 10 seconds when you're dealing with tasks and information, put it where it needs to go, and then you won't ever have to worry about finding it again. It's just like the extra 10 seconds it takes to put a dish actually in the cupboard rather than on the counter when you get it out of the dishwasher. Living your life that way, it's just where you kind of figure out 10 more seconds and I can finish this. I don't have to mess with it ever again. I write it down, actually when I'm in a meeting and I make a promise to somebody, during the meeting in front of them, I'll say, oh, you mind if I write this down? That I'm going to look something up or make a phone call for them. I'll get my calendar out. I'll put a task down. I got a recommendation for a good book. Tom came, pulled it up, put it right there in that thing. I don't ever have to think about it again because it's where I want it when I need to do it. Now, how does this save your marriage and your stress and your life and your time? Y'all tell me.
Gives you time.
It gives you time back.
I'm going digital.
Can I-
Yeah.
When
I've always had.
Brother Tim has taught this all 4 years. Gil will tell you he's been here. I began to apply some of this, and there's 2 things especially for a pastor, that you may have to change in an event. You can't determine emails. And so that's something that sometimes you may have to call somebody and say, we need to reschedule.
Yeah.
And then you automatically do that. So I learned that out of the experience of dealing with it.
Sure.
Brother Tim made a comment that changed something in my thinking. My youngest daughter is now 19, but when he first taught this, she was 16 or 15 going on 16. And she didn't like to do things with Dad so much anymore, like she did when she was 6.
Yeah.
Dad was cool then. When she was 15, I just wasn't too cool anymore. So she looked at me and said, Dad, can we go kayaking tomorrow? I would look on my list, and if it was something that I could change, because I'm not getting that opportunity again, probably for another 6 months. I would look on there, and if it was something I could honestly change, I would say yes, and I would put that in, and I would call that person and say, I apologize, but something very important come up, and I don't have to explain to them what it is. And that's what Tim's taught me, that once you've got something on there and you're obligated to it, you don't have to explain that to somebody. I have an obligation. And so multiple times, you can ask my wife, multiple times my daughter said, can we do something? And when I pulled it up, I had something in that spot.
Right.
And I told her yes, and I called that person back. and just simply rescheduled it. And that still allows you to not miss something that may not happen for another little while,
Right.
but also the integrity part of calling that person and rescheduling.
Being a
to
man
a
of your
later
word.
time. And you have to have discernment to know whether that's something that's, you know,
Right. I got you.
but I did that like several times, called that person like, oh, no big deal, we can meet tomorrow. Oh, great, great. And then I immediately put that in.
Mhm.
So that was something, it really made me think about priority scheduling and what actually is gonna trump something on my schedule. And a funeral happens to be one of those things for a
Sure.
pastor.
Yeah.
You begin living an intentional life.
Yeah.
Not an accidental life.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you intend to do things.
Right.
You say, this matters to me, so I'm gonna do this. And
Sun comes up.
yeah, you intend it. Many times I think we view our lives like the little disciples in the boat in the middle of the storm.
Right.
You know, with life and circumstances are just all overwhelming.
Chaotic.
You know, they're overwhelming and it's like, I can't, and we're just victims of it all. And it just kind of, after a point, we stop even rowing.
Yeah.
We quit trying because it's just too much. It's just, oh, you know, coming from every direction.
You know what I'm
And
saying?
we're all like helpless and God help me, you know, don't you care? And yeah, isn't that what the disciples said? And you know, it's like, of course the Lord cares. And so how do we get out of that circumstance? And actually, it's not unlike what Jesus did. We have to speak to the wind and the waves.
Hmm.
Okay, we have to speak to the wind and the waves. What is it that's overwhelming us? You know, our children are bringing us this stuff, our schools demanding this, you know, the coaches from the kids soccer club and then the church and then people in the WMU and the deacons and, you know, there's people overwhelming us all the time. And at some point, we have to have the autonomy, the agency or the faith, the courage to stand up and say, you know what, that is a really important thing, but I can't do that. I won't be there. Sorry. You know, y'all will have to figure that out
You
without
see,
me.
that's one of the problems I go to.
Well-
is that when I say that, I feel like I'm useless, you know?
Yeah,
I'm sorry, I can't do that. And I feel like I'm letting out.
but that's your issue. You know, you
It's
get.
on me, you're right.
It is on you.
You're right.
You know, and whenever you figure out that God's okay with you just the way you are,
Oh,
and that he knows your limitations and it's okay. He didn't ask us to be Superman or Superwoman.
right,
God
right.
never called us to be everything to everybody. He never called us to do everything. He just called us to do our little part. And what I found is when we do our little part well, that everything else will fall into place. I don't know if you've ever had a chance to walk alongside a large church pastor, but I have. I've had the chance to be in their office regularly and pray with them, talk to them, see them, know their schedule. One of the larger churches in the Waco region, probably one of the largest churches in town, the pastor took a nap every single afternoon. You think, how did he do that? He had this big old church he had to take care of. We just told the staff, he said, I'm closing the door and I'm gonna take a nap.
No, you
I'll be out in an hour. You know, he spoke to the waves. He really did. And he just said, you know, he was getting up in the years a little bit. And he said, I'm gonna take a nap and I'm gonna close the door. And I got my good recliner here in my pillow. And, you know, don't bug me. I'll be out in an hour. And he did every single day. And I thought, you know, when I saw that, I was like, golly. You know,
You don't care.
but he does care.
You're right.
He wants to be a great pastor.
And
And he preached wonderful sermons and he was ready for Sunday. And when at 2:00, whenever he opened his door, he was fresh and ready to talk to everybody.
Right, right.
And he was a good pastor, but he spoke back to the waves. He told them, not now, or not this moment. And he took control of his own life in a sense, autonomy. And he realized he's working for God and, you know, the others can find their place, whatever they're going to do. And that's the mental shift again that I was talking about at the very beginning. If you don't get that mental shift, You're gonna always be at the whim and beck of everybody you think's important.
Mm.
You know, you think the deacons are important. Well, I gotta return their call. Well, you think your associate pastor is important. Well, you think the director of missions is important. Well, you think, you know, somebody else is important. And you don't have the nerve even to tell your own daughter that, you know, I'm sorry, honey, I love you a lot, but I'm gonna do that tomorrow. You know, I'm just tuckered out today. I can't do that. And you begin to not be the victim of life, but you speak back to the waves, you speak to the wind, and you take control of the boat, and you can feel like you can row again. And you can row again. You know, here's what I see so many pastors, I feel like, are well-intentioned, good heart. And that's why they go into the ministry. They love people, they want to be loved, they want to be liked, they want to do good, they want to meet everybody's needs. They have this good, giant, big heart. But they end up being like the really sorry pool player at the bar who's drunk. Because the bar, the drunk pool player, you know how their balls go on the pool table? They go dong, 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 and another ball comes and hits it, and they're off that way. And another ball comes and hits it, and they're off that way. And they never get in the pocket. You know, they never go into the corner pocket, and it's because they're always responding to somebody else. They're always responding to somebody else's agenda, somebody else's need, somebody else's request. And it's always this donk, 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 you know, and they end up the day, they're very tired. They've worked really hard, but they haven't accomplished anything.
And they wake up the next day.
And they do it over and hungover. And at the end of the year, their church is frustrated with them because we're not going anywhere, Pastor. What's wrong? And they're working their tails off, but they're just going donk, 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 you know, back and forth. And I really feel like the vision that God has for us, rather than being a pool ball at the end of a drunk cue stick, we ought to be an arrow in the hand of God, where we let God take his time, draw the arrow back, figure out its destination, take good aim, and then go and get it done. If we can be an arrow in the hand of God, we can conquer some enemies. If we're going to be a pool table in the hand of a drunk, we're not going to go anywhere. That's what this is about. That's what this is about. It's not about making massive to-do lists. It's about get it all out of your head, prayerfully look at it then, prayerfully say under God, what are the few things I really need to do today out of that? Come down to that, fix your list, and then go do it. You know, just do it. And then the next day, repeat, and you'll get somewhere as you do that. All right, we're gonna practice writing a goal. We have a few more minutes. I'm not gonna keep you all the way to 9 o'clock. Is that when?
No, we can stay, man. We can stay all night long.
We'll be out of here in 20 more minutes. Okay.
I'm enjoying this.
I want you to go back with me to a task, and I want you to write a sample task, a real task that you have in your to-do list in your head. And I want to talk you through how do you write the task well. Okay, because so write it just the way you think you will, and then I'm going to help you improve it. What's a task you have? Remember, that's a thing you can kind of do in one shot, one session, one period of time. Doesn't have to be related to church, God, Jesus, squirrels, whatever.
That's how I do stuff.
Whatever you want. Write a task. You got a task in your mind? Okay, did you write it down? You don't have a pen?
No, I got it.
Okay,
That's tricky for you.
No, I got it.
all right.
You got it there.
This is Will's 4th year to take this. He's probably using the same task as last
You
year.
probably use it.
And the year before, and the year
Because it's in
before.
the-
I'm joking.
You gotta memorize. Who wants to volunteer reading your task? And I'm gonna help you understand the difference in how you word it, so that when you write the task down, you have the information you need right there. Okay. Who's got a task they want to share?
I'm spending time with the Lord when I first wake up. I'll give us some coffee and I'll, my task is just read the word.
Okay, read the word. Very good. Who else has a task? What'd you write?
Getting ready for homecoming meeting.
Terrific. Getting ready for a homecoming meeting.
Overtime.
Overcomers
It's a
meeting.
recovery group.
Okay, terrific.
So I
So get
said-
ready for the group.
Right.
Terrific. Who else has a task?
After that, I visit friends online.
There you go.
About 9 o'clock, I go on, it's a worldwide chat room. I got friends
So-
in Oregon, you know, we sit, we visit.
Okay,
Sometimes we even share a word, or, you know,
Great.
now sometimes they get goofy.
sure. That's an awesome example.
No, not me, no.
Do you have a task back there? You want to share?
Evaluate new employees class presentation at 1400 tomorrow.
Terrific.
In conference room.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. Okay,
You got
so-
nothing done, well.
As you think about what you just wrote, you're gonna think about where is this gonna go and how am I gonna word it? So for a couple of these, you might want to consider making that a date on your calendar instead of in your to-do list.
Ah,
Okay, like you're gonna, at 9 o'clock, talk to friends on Zoom or whatever
Yeah.
on.
whatever, yeah,
Internet.
but Snapchat.
So you may want to think about, log in and talk to friends and put that on your calendar rather than your to-do list. Because when you look at your day, it'll help you realize, oh, I've got a fixed time I need to do that. They're not gonna be there at 6 o'clock, they're gonna be there at 9 o'clock, right?
Right, yeah.
So it should go on your calendar, not a to-do list.
Ah,
Does that make sense? So
Yeah,
thinking
yeah,
clearly about
yeah.
where do I put this down? Yours is similar. I think you might
This is
consider.
on my calendar.
Okay, terrific. And so on your calendar, if you have a login credential or if you have anything else, you can put the details on your calendar. Then it doesn't have to go on your to-do list because it's a fixed thing.
Yeah, but don't you end up with to-do lists on your calendar?
If you're going to commit to a certain hour.
right.
My calendar is like sacred to me. If I write down 3 o'clock, call Cindy. At 3 o'clock, if I'm on another call at 2:59, I'll probably start winding it down and say, I got another call. And, thank you for, and I'll call at 3, So calendars are things that you have committed. I'm going to actually do that on that hour. On that hour.
To-do list, you're committing to them, you just don't have.
You don't have a specific time. That's
So the
right.
Sam's thing.
And they can fill in the
So how do you
gaps.
keep up with all that then? If, I mean, I know you're checking it weekly and all that kind of stuff, but I mean, some to-do lists have to be done by a certain time, but not at a certain time.
Okay, this is a great question. So you ever heard the illustration of the big rocks and the sand in the
Yeah.
jar?
That's cool.
Where you got a jar and you got all these big rocks out and you got a little sand. And if you put the sand in first, you'll never fit it all. But if you put the big rocks in first, then you put the sand in, then it all fits.
Yeah.
You've heard of that?
Yeah.
So your calendar items are your big rocks in your day. So at 3 o'clock, I'm gonna do this. At 4 o'clock, I have a board meeting. See, I don't have much, I can't skip my board meeting because I'm busy doing a to-do list. My board's gonna be there. It's a meeting with other people. 20 other people are gonna be there waiting on me. So 4 o'clock, I better be at the board meeting. Okay, so that's my big rock. Now my to-do list comes in when I finish up another task or whatever, and it's 2:30 and I got an hour and a half. It's not filled on my calendar. I'll flip up on my to-do list and say, I'll do that. I'll do that. I'll do that. And I'll do that. And I can knock off 3 or 4 or 5 of those things because they're not time sensitive.
But they need to be done by a certain time. Would you
Okay,
still
But I need to do
label
this,
that
not-
as a certain time frame?
okay. The only time I would do that is if I'm coming, like if it's set on my to-do list and as I review that in my weekly review, and I see that's coming up and I haven't done it, then I would take it from the task and put it on the calendar as a commitment. Like I've got
Like you're building your pizza oven
right,
and you're gonna be putting concrete on the outside of it. When you're ready to start that, you have to have a definite time. I mean, it's not, at this point, at this point, you don't have a definite time that you're gonna do it.
right.
let me give something simpler. He's in his office and he's finished his task that he can accomplish right then. He goes to his to-do list, and on his to-do list, it says that cabinet needs organizing.
Right.
Oh, well, I can do that in an hour. But that's not something that he is worried about. It could be done tomorrow, it could be done a week from now, but it's on his to-do
Eventually,
list.
yeah.
So it's not something he has to put in a set slot.
Okay.
But like for his, prepare for his recovery meeting,
Right, right.
you know, that would be like read a book, make some notes, make a PowerPoint,
We've been supposed to,
make some phone calls.
to get ready for it, I would have a to-do list, but it has to be done at that time.
Okay, and there is a time limit to those things. You have to have that done before that day
Right,
comes.
before the meeting starts.
Okay, so on your, it would go on your to-do list as 4 or 5 things, make all these phone calls, make a PowerPoint, you know, set up the room, read the scriptures, make my notes. Those would be separate to-do lists on there, you know,
Right.
on your to-do list. But you got a meeting on your calendar that you know you're getting ready for, all right? Now, if your week is getting crazy and out of control, and you know, all these things keep coming at you, and you realize, ooh, I've got 2 hours of work that I need to do to get ready for that meeting, it's tomorrow.
Right.
That's when it comes up and goes on my calendar today. I'm gonna spend 2 hours this afternoon doing those things so that I know I can wake up in the morning and I'm ready.
It's,
Yeah, and so that would be one of my bullet lists on my sticky note for today.
right,
I
right.
can't leave this office until I get this done today.
Exactly.
You know, so it
No
moves
matter
off.
what time of the day it is, but it
I'm
has
gonna
to
get
get
it
done.
Preaching your sermon the same way, you know, where I know a lot of pastors that have, they schedule their study time. You know, they know I need to be in the word 6 hours in the week, sermon prep. Well, when are you gonna do that? You know, it shouldn't be on your to-do list, it should be on your calendar.
Right.
Because you're gonna commit 6 hours to preparing for a sermon. So when is that? Is it Thursday night at 9 o'clock or is it Tuesday morning? And that makes you be real with yourself,
Right.
realistic with yourself. Where,
This is the day today in our life.
Mhm.
I told her a couple of days ago, I said, well, I'm gonna go do a small job, and I'm gonna go look at another one, and then we'll come back and we'll go get our eyeglasses, because we called, so we were ready,
yeah,
and then we're gonna run up there to class.
yeah,
And I had that plan, I knew to the exact minute, everything was gonna happen.
perfect.
Hers, the same way, she had a good plan, she's gonna go with a friend and spend, you know, the day there, and she's gonna wait for me at her mom's, but when I can't pick her up and later, we'll go to Harker House, because I can pick up the bus. First off, her mom calls this morning and says, I need you to take me to the doctor at 10 o'clock, which is the time she had scheduled for her time.
Of course.
So she's all like,
I'm
Yeah,
the only one who can drive because of her eyes.
yes, of course.
and so I told her, I told her, we'll go with your friend. I will take your mom. I'll just call and tell them they can wait until, you know, I get there to do it.
So
Terrific.
now
Well,
we're
her friend,
canceled.
yeah, and then her friend called and she canceled and said, I can't do that because she was having some other issue.
Yeah,
So she went in and called her mom and said, okay, I will take you, and she sent me off to work. So now I'm already running behind.
yeah,
So I'm at work, I'm trying to get this done because I know I gotta get back and pick up my voice, and she forgot the glasses at the house, so I had to run all the way.
oh
back to the
gosh,
house
yeah, yeah.
To go over there, and now I'm rushing, she's calling me up, well, I guess you're not in a hurry, are you? I said, I'm almost
Geez,
there.
since you're not in a hurry.
You
So
got a lot.
finally, I pick her up, we go. We have an hour and a half. Cut the time down.
Yeah.
We pick up our glasses, we stop and got a bite to eat. And then, you know, then traffic on 14 stopped.
Of course.
Yeah.
Oh, it's.
So we're sitting there, she's going, you need to call Carl, and tell him we're gonna. I said, well, let's just wait till 10 till. By 10 till, we finally busted out.
Got
of
through.
I started coming
What
up
do you do when
35
your
because of
day
that.
just?
I jumped off,
Falls apart.
I stay on 35 all the way
I
to
mean,
just.
we had it planned, it was all planned. It was all planned.
Yeah, it sounded marvelous.
Uh,
I think that goes back to the very beginning of he's given us everything we need through knowledge of him.
right.
You know, and it doesn't always, I thank you for bringing that, because that's real, that's reality.
Yeah,
That's where we live.
you know,
Okay, but at some point you have to say, well, God's in this too. And it's okay. You know, it's just,
Yeah.
what else are you gonna do? You know, it's like the flat tire or a car wreck or,
Yeah.
right.
Or
you know,
traffic,
you, somebody falls down and breaks their ankle, they're gonna go to the ER, you know, you just live your life.
finance.
But what you've done is by taking all your commitments and getting them written somewhere, is that when that accident happens or your mom calls and you have the confidence that I'm not going to forget anything. I'm not getting all done today like I thought. You have the confidence, it's all written down somewhere and someday I'll get it done.
My problem is my eyes starts twitching.
From too much.
And that's
Well-
when, I mean, the top, about art of
Stress-free productivity.
When my eye twitches, that means I'm about ready to short circuit.
Yeah,
And I do,
and
and I don't know how not to.
well, in the midst of
I
that,
tried to get up there.
yeah.
It's
It
hard.
sounds like y'all got a great system and you're working together well. Congratulations. That's good.
It's
But the
elderly moms are not easy.
It's
to
hard.
plan with.
sandwich generation, when you got kids and you got moms,
Right.
it's not, life is not easy.
No.
This is just a system that will help relieve some of the stress and help you live a little more peacefully.
Yeah.
But it's not a silver bullet that solves everything. It won't do that. But at some point, you know, it's like, especially in relationships where it's day after day after day after day, always an emergency. You know, you have to go to the Lord and say, Lord, what resource do you have for me here that I haven't yet seen? Who are you sending to help me that I haven't seen yet and let help? Who can I defer or delegate this to that I haven't yet seen? You know, because this chaos can't continue. You know, it's not God's plan for your life to live in chaos every day. And so if you're living in chaos, there's somewhere in there where you're taking on burdens that aren't yours, somebody else's stuff, or somewhere you're not seeing God's provision, or somewhere where, you know, I don't know the specific answer to that specific thing, but I do know that the vision of the sheep in a green pasture with the great shepherd and still waters is the vision God's called us to. And it's worthy of striving to get back to that. What is it, whatever that takes, you know, in some cases it may take, like my mom called her sister and said, I can't take care of mom anymore, my grandmother. I have to have your help, you know, and let's work out a deal. And so grandma went to live with the sister, you know, where mom's life had been falling apart because she was taking care of dad with cancer, you know, things, a lot of stuff like that. But, you know, at some point we have to just acknowledge our life is under the good shepherd and we don't know it all, but he has given us everything we need and we just need to see it. You know, I had a wonderful quiet time 2 weeks ago. And in it, the Lord, I felt like gave me the words of accept the help I'm sending. Accept the help I'm sending.
Mm.
And that day, my financial secretary resigned, unhappy. And then things started going south from there. You know, it was like, you know, just got tough and worse and bad, you know, confusing. And I stopped and reflected on it, accept the help I'm sending. So I stopped and said, Lord, what help are you sending? I need to see that. And within the hour, Roger Yancey, another director of missions from down along the coast, called me and said, I'm sending a church business administrator. He's retiring and moving to Waco and is looking for a part-time job. And I just wanted to recommend him to you, and he's there and wanted to connect you to. You know, it was like, thank you, Lord. You know, I wish it always worked out that smooth and that easy. But at some point, God's providing for us to do his will. That's what I'm trying to say, is at some point, there's provision. If he's put this on us, there's provision to do it. And if there's not provision, then we have to go back and ask, did God put this on me? Or did somebody else put this on me?
And if when you're bivocational or co-vocational, whatever people are calling it today, like often my wife will look at me and say, what is your schedule for tomorrow? And I cannot tell her off the top of my head. I can't do it.
Because it's all in your calendar.
It's, yeah, and I immediately pull out my phone and I'll say, at this time I've got this, at this time I've got this, why? And she'll say, well, at this time, can you do this? And guess what? Before my phone goes back in my pocket, that goes in there. And I set 2 alarms with everything that goes in my phone, day before and hour before.
To alert you.
To alert me. And the reason for that is because just because I put it in my calendar doesn't mean that I'm gonna remember it. I put and if you've got an
You gotta
hour,
remember, look at your calendar.
yeah, if you've got an hour drive somewhere, you might ought to put a 2-hour reminder. That way, if you forget about it, you go, oh, I gotta get out the door, and trust me, I've done it often. But my wife, you can ask her, she's right there, she will tell me, what does your day tomorrow look like? And I know what that means. She's got something I need to do or something is.
She's gonna ask.
Yeah, and she's gonna say, well, during this time, your daughter, or, like sometimes she'll say, your daughter wants to bring the grandson over so she can go to a doctor's appointment. Well, do you know what I do? I want to know that because I'll look on my calendar and go, okay, my grandchild is gonna bump that. It's not a funeral, it's not,
Yeah.
but it's something because I'm gonna prioritize,
Well, yeah.
those things. And that, I learned that in here. If you can look at your calendar.
Right. You can do
The systems we each develop are gonna look different,
it. Right.
and you're gonna adapt it for what your environment is.
Mostly, yeah.
So I think the takeaways would be, keep it simple. Don't make it overly complex that you won't use it, your system, whatever it is, whatever you do, keep it simple. I've seen project management software that takes a full-time employee to run the project management software. And it's insane. It's like, nobody needs that. Just don't need
That's
it.
what you were saying earlier. Some of it makes it harder than.
It is, and that's not the point of it. The point of this is keep it simple, keep it out of your head, keep it where you can find it, keep it organized, and live at a pace where you can keep it up, where you can do it, and where you can go to bed at night and sleep. I can say this with confidence. It's not God's will that you live off 4 hours of sleep at night. God did not design us that way.
I've been doing that.
It's not God's will that you work 7 days a week. It's not. He told us so. It's not God's will that we have heart attack at 40 years of age because we have failed to take care of ourselves. Those are some basic things. And it's like we've launched ourselves into this digital age, this modern era, this time when life becomes so chaotic and confusing, and that we really have to grab control back from it, the chaos. And we have to push the chaos away. And like Jesus to the waves, we've got to speak to it and just say, I will do this and this and this and this today.
That's it.
And I'm done. And then whoever else around me can figure out what they need to do,
Right.
we'll bump and push and shove a little bit. I mean, there's some negotiation, but I cannot possibly continue living in just chaos and confusion. And God's not glorified and our churches aren't going to get built by that way. And the more calm and quiet and peaceful we are, man, things will go better. Here's a real simple little story. I've learned if you just give a little bit of a pause in each conversation, a little gap of silence, when you're talking to somebody of anything of importance, that usually the good stuff, the important things, the deeply profound emotional part of it we usually spill out at the last pause of the conversation. But if you're in a hurry in your life, you're going to miss it every single time. It's like our son was on the phone the other day, and he was saying, talking about politics and COVID, and you know, all that. He's a nurse in an OR.
Right.
And he said, gosh, it seems like, you know, the world's going to end, or these are the last days. We both had things to get going and doing, but we paused just for a second and said, what do you mean by that, son? And out came these stories, out came the heart. We'd already been talking 45 minutes, but the heart of it came out in that pause.
Right.
And so often, if in our lives, we'll take that time, instead of setting the dishes on the counter, we'll take the moment to put them up in the cupboard. Take the ketchup and actually put it in the refrigerator where it belongs. Finish the task, finish the email, pause in the conversation. Have that different pace of our life. We'll find our effectiveness soars. We change people's lives by that last pause, that last question, that last interest. I'm not in a hurry to leave you. I'm ready. I'm listening. I'm here. And when people get that, it's like, wow, you know, and usually problems in families, problems in churches, the problem isn't the problem. It's almost always something else, something underneath the surface. But you never get there if you're in a hurry, or if you're living in chaos and confusion. You never get to it. You never find out what it is. So take the time with your quiet time, read your scriptures, have your prayers, stop, shut up, and pause.
I like that.
Yeah, just pause and just sit there. Just sit there with God, just in silence for just a few more minutes. See what God says. Visiting on the phone with somebody, take that pause. Just say, what else do you need to tell me about today? Whatever question comes to your heart, the Holy Spirit will lead. Sometimes no question, just a silence. A breath of silence. Before you go to bed tonight, take that time. You know, sit with the Lord, review your day, ask God for light, find out what went well, what could have been better, and then shut up, sit down, and be quiet and be still. And just be still with God. Just a few minutes before you climb into bed and hear what God has to say. That to me is the stress-free productivity. That you know, it's where you get all this junk world of smoke and busyness out of your head, get it all written down somewhere so you don't have to think about it anymore. And then you're just with God. And that's the magic. That's the good stuff. Absolutely change your life. I bet you will. Yeah, let me pray for you. And then we'll. Father, thank you for this moment. Thank you for the time to share with these brothers and sisters. And Lord, I pray that something that maybe we've shared tonight would be of fruitful use to them, that they may find greater peace, greater joy, greater happiness, greater freedom, and greater rest as a result of something that we've said. Lord, I pray for their ministries. I pray for their health. I pray for their families. I pray that you would just be to them the good shepherd that you are. In Jesus' name.
Well, I told you guys last week that Brother Tim was bringing good stuff. So, it's also the encouragement. I think we were supposed to read 3 chapters.
Oh my God, I need two
Two
waters.
chapters.
I really do.
But that's the reason
For some reason.
for our brothers in Kampala. We love you guys, and we will see you next week.